Hello everyone and welcome to this week's game development log video diary, and this week I've been doing a lot of work on the weapon and armour material system. I implemented a few icon effects and I also added a load of new models into the game. But firstly this week, just something I had to finish off from last time, I have now implemented a way for particles to follow the particle emitter around, and as you can see this makes for a much more realistic fire effect. I also updated the item editor so that you can now choose which of the three systems you want the particle effect to use. So you can set it to leave a trail of particles, you can set the particles to act more like realistic particles so that they get shaken off the weapon like pollen, or you can set them to follow the particle emitter like this. So now for the material system updates that I made this week. If you've been watching since devlog 26, then you'll know that there's a material system in the game for all combat items. Basically, any piece of armour in the game is available in 10 different materials. For example, here are all the possible versions of the horned helmet, each made from one of the 10 metals, going from the tier 1 metal up to the tier 10 metal. Before this week, the material set was always determined by the combat type of the item, so all melee armour always had to use the metal material set, while all mage armour, for example, used the cloth material set. But this week I added a way to override the material set for an item, allowing me to choose what material an item is made from if necessary. So in the item editor you can see this helmet, and as soon as I set it to melee it starts using the metal material set and it cycles through all the possible variations in the preview. But now I have this option here to choose a different material set, so if I were to choose wood you can see that it now uses different wood materials. And if we have a look at this in the game you can see that it all works nicely, with the Mellee Helmets now being made from different types of wood. Also this week, something that's always bothered me about the material system is that there's no visual difference between the different tiers of materials, except for colour. So I've got the tier 1 shadow armour set and the tier 10 shadow armour set here. The tier 1 set costs a few hundred coins or whatever the currency is in this game, but the tier 10 armour is worth several hundred billion and is infinitely more powerful. And yet the only difference between them is a slightly different colour. So this week I went about making the higher tiered items look a little bit more epic, and I added a shimmering effect to the top 4 tiers of materials. So you can see here that the icons for the higher tiers of armour now have a nice effect on them, and when you wear them, the same effect can be seen on the armour. So it's fairly subtle on the tier 7 armour, tier 8 is a little bit more fancy, the tier 9 armour made from soulite looks pretty epic, and then finally there's the spyrite armour, which is the best metal in the game and super end game stuff. Hopefully now it's a little bit more obvious that this armour here is better than the tier 1 version. And seeing as I was working on icon effects, I also decided to quickly implement support for 2D particle effects for icons, such as this sparkling effect here, or this smoky effect here. And I'm going to be using these effects next week when I work on enchanting items, where I'll be using different icon particle effects to indicate which enchantments an item has. Finally this week, as I said I would in the last devlog, I added a whole load of new models and weapons to the game last weekend, all of which have been made and sent in by you guys, so thank you all very much as always for helping this project continue to grow. You'll have already seen most of the new models in this video, and I'm just equipping all of the new weapons right now. But if you want to see more of the new models, then head over to the Facebook page where I have a photo album that I keep updated with the pictures of all of the new models that get added to the game each week. On the topic of social media, I created a new Tumblr page for the game this week, and with the Kickstarter coming up later this year, I really do need to start pushing the game on social media as much as possible. So if you guys would be able to help out by following any of my pages, then I would be extremely grateful. All of the links are in the description below. So that is going to be it for this week. Quick announcement for anyone who's making content for the game, I'll be sending you all an email tomorrow about some new content lists, so look out for that. And if anyone else would like to get involved by making content for the game, then there's information in the description about how you can do that. But yeah, thank you guys very much for watching this video. Do subscribe if you haven't already. Have an awesome week, and I will see you all next time.